2018 was an epic year, and it's only the beginning. And in 2019, I want more of you along for the ride. In this very special end of year, only time in my life I'll be able to say the first year of me being a published author, closeout episode before I disappear for a little bit for the holiday season, episode 67 of Horrible Writing.
That will never work.
You can't publish that.
Seriously?
Don't.
Oh my God, that's another thing you do. That's bad. You probably should find other hobbies. You ever learn how to spell? Stop. Be happy. Quit while you're Don't bother me. I've seen better. Do you really want to? And my third grade. Give it up.
Welcome to Horrible Writing, the rawest, most candid, in-your-face writing show on the interwebs because none of us have time to suck. Let's do this. Hey everyone, Paul Sading, your host, Horrible Writing. Last episode of the second season, 2018, of this show. Who knows what the future will bring? Well, I do. I know it's coming up. But beyond that, for me and for you. And I want to talk about that in this end of year, last episode of the year episode. Because here's the deal. This show was always about being a digital diary of my journey toward authorship. When I started it in 2017, it was a way to just kind of document this, to keep me motivated, to keep me seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, to reaching that bucket list dream of being a published author. Along the way, I've met more and more of you amazing, wonderful, encouraging people. I've spoken with dozens of authors and audio dramatists in our interviews. And from each interaction, I've learned something and I've grown a little bit, and I hope you have too. So in this last episode of the year, this isn't about celebrating what I've done. This is about celebrating the accomplishments with you, but with an aim of hopefully being helpful to you as well. Ever since I was an 8-year-old writing my first vampire and werewolf story, long before star-twinkling vampires were a thing. Those of you who know me know that I can be irreverent, flippant, but it comes from a good place. Trust me, I pick on myself more than I pick on anyone else. But I always wanted to be a published author. Life got in the way. I got distracted by things I thought I needed to do. And I've got a couple episodes planned for 2019 where I'm going to talk about that in an effort to help those of you, especially those of you younger than me and maybe early in your adulthood where you're striving to achieve those things you're told you need to have. I'm going to have a couple messages for you next year. But I got taken off course, as many of us do. And the fire never died, and I always dreamed. Told my wife, I don't need to be Stephen King, but I do need to be a published author before they put me in one of those little iron, bronze contraptions that hold ashes. I don't even know what those things are called. I'll have to do research if I ever write one in a story. And I achieved that last year in June when I published Chasing the Demon, my novel adaptation of my Subject Found audio drama podcast. And I learned a lot in that process. I really did. And I'm enjoying the fruits of that labor. It's been a lot of fun. But then in November of 2018, I published 2 books, a nonfiction book for writers who want to sell books by building their brand through a podcast. So if you haven't picked up Novel Idea to Podcast, how to sell more books through podcasting. I encourage you to do that. I'm keeping it really reasonably low because I want as many people as possible to be able to pick it up and enjoy it and learn from it. But I also released a horror anthology that started out as an idea for somebody else. And it was such a clever title, I thought. It was original. Found out later it wasn't. Don't care. Published with attitude, yo. I went ahead and published it anyways because the stories are a lot of fun. And they've led to other things that I'm going to talk about. So I have a novel adapted from a podcast. I have a nonfiction book, and I have an anthology. I'm a hot mess. One of the projects I've got coming out next year is another novel finally, so my second novel. But this one straight up novel. It's not an adaptation. But it is also the novel I wrote before any of the three I've already published. So it's needed a lot more TLC since I've grown as a writer since writing this thing. And it's pretty painful. I've done all of that while being a husband and a father and having a full-time job. I'm not one of those writers who gets to just sit around all day and think of stories. I'm one of you. I have responsibilities just like you do. And I also have 5 podcasts. Now, they don't run all the time. 4 of them are audio dramas. They run during their seasons. Or they ran. Some of them are defunct. But I do it because I made writing a priority in my life. Because it was a goal. And that's kind of what I want to focus on with you all. I did all of those things this year. I signed up and started working on 2 courses, which I'm still working through. I have to do the time when I can. And I signed up for one about Amazon ads before I should have. But I've paid a lot of money for it. So I need to take it, learn as I go, and keep going back as I apply the things that I'm learning. With a focus on 2019. 2019 is going to be another year of disjointed growth, but I'm planning for it because that's part of my 5-year plan. It's not the smoothest road. It's not what I would advise others to do. I would advise others to learn from my mistakes, which is why I share these things with you. But I'm really looking forward to it. I really, truly am. In 2018, I also hit my word count goal. Now, I know there are some of you who are averse to word counts, and I feel like I'm doing a really lousy job of explaining them and their purpose, or it's up to you to understand it. And I don't want to put that on you. I want to try to own it the best I can, and I'm all about accountability. But I also don't want to give people too much wiggle room to avoid looking themselves in the mirror. I can't change you. You can't change me. You're accountable for you. I'm accountable for me. But I don't like hearing, I'll listen to anybody and I'll be empathetic. But there's a certain point when you tell me the same thing over and over and over again where I have to point a finger at you and say, hey, it's your fault, right? And I do want to address that with word counts, with me as the example. So here's my theory on word counts, and I share it with you in an effort to hopefully help you. Motivation is internal. Nobody can motivate you to do something that you want to do. It has to come from you. Now, they can affect you. They can affect your environment. They can try to influence you, but they cannot motivate you. Only you can motivate you. It's up to you. How do you motivate yourself if you don't set specific goals? Some people will set goals like, I want to write a book. Well, that's not specific. And some of you are saying, yeah, it is. No, it's literally not. You want to write what type of book? How long of a book? When should it be? When does it need to be published by? Those are some things that'll start adding specificity. But saying I want to write a book is not a specific goal. And one of the things that you can do to help yourself is by looking at word count. It can help in a couple different ways. Long ago, I released an episode titled 100 word count day. And the theory behind that is, my theory is a 100 word count day is not one of proficiency and productivity. It's one about work-life balance. You can't work, give to your family, and pump out novels left and right reasonably. And you can't sustain that without taking care of yourself. You can't sustain that balance. And my 100 word count theory is this. Once in a while, it's okay to have a 100 word count day, meaning you sat at your keyboard and all you got done was 100 words. Now, some people have the mindset of beating themselves up, of moaning and groaning, taking to Facebook and commiserating with other authors, which on a one-off is fine, by the way. But if that's a standard coping mechanism, there's a problem. Stop doing that. Be okay with a 100 word count day, because there's other things in life that need to happen. My kid came home from school a couple weeks ago. I had a 90-something word day that day, and I wrote those 90 words before she got up. And I don't care, because time with her was far more important. It's okay to do that, but you have to be your own judge, jury, and executioner. If you're doing that more often than not, or even an inordinate percentage of time, that's going to be a problem. But I can't judge for you when it becomes a problem. That's up to you and your goals. You just have to be honest with yourself, right? You just have to be honest and stop looking for excuses and stop allowing yourself to have excuses. Do you want to do this or not? It's seriously that simple. Now, what happens next is a measure of where you currently are. If you're like, yeah, thumping your chest and you're feeling motivated, then you need to get serious about making that progress. If you're rationalizing by saying, well, I have this and this and this, then maybe this isn't for you at this time. Or maybe your timeline is just longer, and that's okay. But define those for yourself. And in defining those things, you're able to start setting up word count. And a daily word count is a mechanism, a tool that can be used to help yourself stay on track. It helps you be accountable to you. I use a spreadsheet, and every single day I plug in those numbers. And once in a while I'll plug in numbers or data to remind me why my word count was so low. It's not a guilt thing. It's an analytical element. I go back and I just make sure I understand within context why there was a variance in my behaviors. And the other day, great example, I just didn't feel good. I ruptured my Achilles tendon, and I don't have a job where I literally have no sick leave. They don't give it to us. If you miss work, you don't get paid. And so I had to work, and my foot had to dangle for too long, and I started feeling really lousy. Before I even started my workday, I write before the workday. So I punched out at like 200 words that day. I made a note of that just to remind myself why I would have an editing day, because it was an editing day, and that was so low. And guess what? It's okay. No guilt, no remorse, no hangover. Okay. And the next day, we go again. That's one of the tricks to doing this, is it starts holding you accountable when you want to get lazy, because that's really what it is. You're prioritizing other things over your writing. Then, over time, if you do this religiously, you can start seeing the impact of it. You start realizing maybe I'm just not that serious about writing a book, and that's okay. Maybe I'm just not that serious right now, and that's okay. I hope you are feeling the empowerment that I'm trying to give to you. It's all okay. It is. What's not okay is saying that you want to do this and then not recognizing how you contribute to not accomplishing it. You don't want to do that. It's okay if the next couple weeks you dedicate to screwing off and playing video games. Maybe you've had a hard quarter at school. Maybe the job is beating you down. That's okay. But here's the thing. Go document it. Go put it in your word count tracker. Make yourself remember that. It might not be this year. It might not be next year. It might not be for the next decade. But you'll go back and you'll remember that. You might kick your own ass, or you might just say, you know what? That was a period of my life I couldn't do that. But here's the thing. It helps you keep a healthy mindset about you and your writing. It's not about making excuses. It's about understanding the context. But if you're not documenting it, how in the world do you know why things are what they are? You can't. Because guess what? I don't want to get too deep into psychology here, but the human memory sucks. You don't believe me? Go read up on it. Human memory is horrible. So, documenting it is one of the ways to help keep you on track. And if you are internally motivated, which we all are, but you're internally competitive as well, it's a great way to push you through the slog. Keeping track of that stuff can help push. It takes literally 30 seconds of my day to do, if that. So you can't say you don't have the time to do it. It takes 30 seconds. But pushing through that slog and holding yourself accountable. And it's really motivating. My word count goal for this year was 500,000 words. I hit 630,000. I far out exceeded what my goal was. That doesn't mean that in 2019, my goal is going to be 630,000 words. It won't be. Because I know I've got 2 novels all ready to edit. And the 3rd novel of the year that I plan to publish is going to be an adaptation of Subject Found Podcast again, the 3rd season of that show. I have to basically adapt a script, so all dialogue, into script, exposition. So there's a lot more to come from that. So my writing, I haven't established it yet. I'm still thinking about it. My writing word count goal for the year may be lower. Who knows? I'll do that analysis and see. But it holds me accountable to me, and it doesn't allow me any excuses because I'm serious about this. Even if you are doing this as passion, it's all about being realistic and specific with your goals. What is your goal? Good. Now, realistically, what do you need to do to achieve that? You don't have to be hardcore like me. You really don't. And again, it's okay. Whatever your goal is, whatever your aim is, whatever you aspire to, whatever you dream of, it's okay. But be real with yourself. Hold yourself accountable. In 2019, I'm looking forward. And I'm getting excited because I'm to the point where I feel like I'm getting a foothold in the nuances of the industry. Meaning I know I did not set myself up for success by releasing an adaptation novel, a nonfiction, and then an anthology. That's not how you reach commercial success. But it's a sense of obligation that I have to my fans that I did it. I had promised them that, and I needed to fulfill that. Same thing with 2019. 2 of the books are going to be from the Subject Found series. That will catch me up completely. And then I can make some serious decisions about the future of that podcast and that series. The 3rd book, again, is the first horror book I wrote that is making me do a lot of heavy work. And I'm going to get that done. I'm not going to be defeated. Publish with attitude. Own your space, right? I got to live my principles that I preach about with you, to you, on every episode. If I talk to you about this, I better damn well live up to the things that I'm preaching. And that's what 2019 is going to be about. It's also going to be about learning and getting serious about the business side. I have not gotten serious about advertising at all until the end of this year, like late November. I need to get better about that. So I'm getting serious about this course, and I'm reading up on other courses that I might take, and I will share what I can share with you from what I learned from that. But again, that's down the road in the future. I'm getting into audiobooks. I've got 12 deaths recorded. It needs to be edited. I need to record Chasing the Demon. While I'm doing that, I might as well start recording anything that's ready, right? I want to get into audiobooks because audio is trending toward the future. At least in a complementary capacity, you need to have an audiobook with your novels. And I keep saying these things to you in hopes that all of you are thinking about that already. Regardless of where you are in your publishing journey, whether you've got novels already or you're an aspiring author who's working through those novels as you're listening to these episodes release, to all the way to include those of you who are still outlining maybe your first novel. And that outline is going to happen in 2019, and that's your 2019 goal. Even you, I want you thinking about audio. Now, I may change in the future as I watch those trends and see what happens. But for now, if I were in your shoes, outlining that first novel that you might not even start writing until the end of the year, I'm thinking audio as well. How does this translate? I need to maybe go get a subscription service and listen to some audiobooks. I would be going through that myself. I owe it to you, fans of this show, to share my lessons toward authorship with you. That's what this was founded on. Empowerment through candor. I'm not going to give you platitudes. I'm not going to BS you. I'm going to tell you my regrets and my joys because I want to celebrate it with other writers, but I want to celebrate you too. Because when I get emails from you all, as I have recently, about, hey, Paul, here's my update on my writing. Thanks for encouraging me. That type of stuff pays it forward. It encourages me. It motivates me to continue doing these types of shows, these types of episodes. It encourages me to scour the internet for authors with something to say, because I don't want to just interview people who want to talk about the craft of writing and selling books. No, this is horrible writing. We're going to stick to that theme. We're going to talk about that stuff because I believe in the things that our previous guests have shared, that there's something of value to all of you in there. And I'm humbled each and every time one of them does. I'm excited about the future. We may listen to this episode 5 years from now and laugh about the things I'm saying today, but I'm excited about it. I'm excited about those 3 books, even though they're all horror books and probably 80% of you don't care about horror. You're still here with me, and hopefully you're learning and growing, and we can grow together. But I'm excited to get in deeper into audio to find out what that's really about so I can share with you my experiences in it and what it's really about. And I'm excited the way I'm going because I'm going to test something out that's not very popular. A smaller council of 3 of Mars' longest-serving advisors fell in behind him as he left the chamber, escorted by a pair of bodyguards so massive their girth would serve as a hindrance. But the shadow had taught her the one vulnerability of a tyrant was in their conceited belief that they were impervious. Mar had that in droves from his decade and a half of ruthless rule. Conceit filled the king's mind. His counsel was comfortable. His security team grew bored years ago. Tonight, he would die. That excerpt is from my horror anthology, 12 Deaths of Christmas, available on Amazon in ebook and paperback. What does that mean? In Novel Idea to Podcast, How to Sell More Books Through Podcasting, I told you that podcasting is a way to build a fan base, build exposure for your brand, for those future readers, or for readers of your future stuff, whichever way it works for your timeline. And I truly mean that. I'm not going anywhere with this podcast for sure, but my audio dramas will be changing. I'm dedicating more time to the value market. The value market is those people who value your work, your creative endeavors, so much that they'll actually spend money on it. I don't have a problem with my audio drama or my audio drama fans. If it were not for them, Chasing the Demon wouldn't have done as well as it has. There wouldn't have been an audience for Novel Idea. There wouldn't have been an audience for 12 Deaths because people wouldn't know who in the world I was. I want to stay in audio drama, but I'm changing my approach in the future, including 2019. I'm only doing 2 audio dramas at all the entire year, and maybe 3, but that is a funding thing. And after those 3, everything completely changes, where I'm going to a funding structure only. I'm not giving away free content through audio drama anymore, in a way. So let me give you some specificity so you understand and you can think about your own approach and build your own strategy. So, since 2016, I've had Atheist Apocalypse, Diary of a Madman, Subject Found, Who Killed Julie, and my patron exclusive audio drama called You. The funding for those came out of my wallet and any donations that I got on Patreon. Well, starting in 2019, that all changes. Diary of a Madman Season 3, I've already committed to, so I'm following through on what I committed to. That's how you build trust with people. That's what professionals do. And that's the end of free stuff. What happens after that? It will be based on funding, with one exception. So Diary of a Madman Season 3 is one of the 2 I'll work on in 2019. The other one is a secret project. I want to see how the marketplace responds to an audio drama without my name associated to it. Everything I'm doing in secret. I'm not working with anybody that I haven't worked with before, with one exception, and that person has no idea what the show is that they helped me with something on. And I can't even talk more specifics because they will know once once I say what it is. So literally, this is complete cloak and dagger kind of stuff. And I just want to see what happens when I go with it. I'm not even giving myself a timeline for it. It will happen in 2019. I just don't want to be committed to someone else's schedule. But doing that will give me insight into the marketplace without my name biasing it and the reaction to it. So it's going to be, there's a deliberate business reason why I'm doing that. So that'll be interesting. And I will, of course, follow up with all of you at the end of that. At the end, I plan on exposing myself as the creator to it. We'll see how that goes, but you all will get the follow-up on that. But I want you thinking early about yourself and how you might be able to do something like that if you want to. Of course, depending on my results. Now, I did say there was 3. That's 2. The third one would be a 3rd season of Subject Found. I already told you the book for that 3rd season is going to happen this year. So the book may be the only thing that's ever released from that season. Again, because I cannot keep up with the expense of time and money in audio drama, with the only return being the faithful few who Patreon me. I love them to death. I give them content all the time, which I'll talk about in a second. But I can't keep killing myself and my budget, which could go to books, book covers, editors, if the massive downloads that show gets isn't going to pay back into the cycle. I have to make a business decision, and that's what I've made with that. So how does this apply to you, the book person, the aspiring author, or maybe the aspiring audio dramatist? I deliberately planned on 2 seasons of free content. I don't have a problem with loss leaders, putting something out for free to build awareness of your brand. That's what I've done with that. But that does not mean I commit to doing it forever. I do not have an obligation to the audio drama world to do those things for free forever. So I'm not going to. And I'm at peace with that, because I've worked my ass off and I've sacrificed a lot of personal things that I would love to have done with that money for people to listen for free to that show. This is a business to me. I dream of this, but I want to do this forever. And if I want to write books forever and do audio drama on the side forever, I need to be able to do those things like buy food and pay for electricity, just like everybody else, right? So this is part of my business decisions, and this is why I share this with you, especially those of you just starting out. Think of what you want in the next year, the next 5 years, and yes, I'm going to ask you to think about the next 10 years, because every decision you're making today is going to alter that path one way or another. And obviously, I want it to alter it in your favor toward the way you want it to go. Again, in 2019, I'm going to do a couple episodes essentially about what I would have told the 20-year-old me, the 25-year-old me. And, for what it's worth, better or worse, I'm going to give you that advice, and I hope it helps some of you who are earlier in your career toward authorship. And like I do, empowerment through candor, I'm going to give you the real deal through that real advice, in hopes that it's helpful for you to determine what you really want and what you're really looking at and looking for in those out years. So, strategy to the way forward. I've given the world a ton of free content. A lot of authors will give away a book for free, and they will ride that thing into their series. Maybe they'll do a book for each series, give it away for free. That's great. The difference with audio drama is you don't fire and forget. You don't get to complete that novel, put it out there, and then you move on to all these other things. You have to continue creating, and continuing to create for free is silly, and from a business perspective, irresponsible. Right? It costs time and it costs money, both of which detract from something else, from creating a new book to get out there. So, I've devised a way that I'm going forward, and I share this with you again so you can learn from me and adjust as necessary for yourself. So I already told you, I committed to Diary of a Madman Season 3 for free, and I'm going to do it. The Secret Project is free, but it's not going to have my association to it because I'm studying the market. Season 3 of Subject Found will only get done if we reach our funding goal. And the funding, I'm not doing fundraisers and Kickstarters and all that stuff. I tried and it failed. So I've partitioned a portion, percentage-wise, of my Patreon donations every month. And that partition will be a cumulative effect. Of course, I'll aggregate it over time. Little by little, we'll work toward that funding goal. Once we reach the funding goal for the show, we'll start working on it, not a minute before. If the world wants Subject Found Season 3, they'll become supporters. It's to the point of almost ridiculous for me because the funding goal is a tenth of what another audio drama was looking to raise, and they raised in like 2 months. Literally, a person's annual salary is what they raised in 2 months. Subject Found has so many downloads that if everybody who listens to it were to donate $1 a month, I would have to do at least 2 seasons per year, maybe even 3. There's that many people who listen to it, but that few who support it financially. So, it could be the scarcity principle that I'm employing here, but I'm not going to work on it until it's funded. My hope is that the community of fans responds and says, yes, we want this, and they become patrons. But I value my work enough that I'm going to stop giving it away, in essence, for free. Now, if we do reach that funding goal, which I anticipate us doing, then we will work on it. We'll do all of the editing. We'll work with the actors. We'll get everything recorded. We'll go into production, and then we'll release it for free to everyone. So everyone will still have the story, but it won't be at the expense that it was before. That could happen this year. That might not happen to 2021. And I hope you hear it in my voice. I'm at peace with that because I did my part. I gave the world everything for free for 20 episodes out of my own pocket. I value my work enough to say that's more than enough. Here's the line. And I'm drawing the line. And I say that with you because how much do you value what you create? How much are you willing to give away? We can have socioeconomic debates until the end of time, but at a certain point, as a creator, you have to determine the value, the worth of what you put into the world, and the time it took and the expense it took on your part to put it there. If you're new in your journey, I want you to really explore that for yourself. If you're not doing any writing, something to keep in mind until you start writing. Because once you start making those sacrifices, you start realizing how much you have to give up to do this correctly. And I want you to believe in yourself enough to value your content. I am not saying to not give away things for free. That's a great tactic to build an audience, to build a following of fans. It really is. But I'm also asking you to not fall for the fallacy that everyone deserves your stuff for free, which you will see a lot. The thing is, you're hearing that from people who don't create. They don't give up their weekends. They don't give up their nights. They don't wake up 3 hours early before work, skip lunches, work on a script in the bathroom for 5 minutes while they can. They're not doing those things. So in Paul's book, they don't get a say in what should be free and what should not be free. I want to call on you and ask you to seriously value yourself and what you put in the world enough to at least think about it. Ultimately, if whatever you decide is good for you, hey, that's good for you, as long as you're at peace. But you should not be guilted into anything, and that includes me. So you shouldn't be guilted by me into putting a price tag on your things, but you shouldn't also be guilted by the vocal social web that everything should be free for them to consume. Don't fall into that trap. Value what you create. Going forward, I'm even going to take that and ratchet that up another level. So, for your consideration to think about, in the context of what I've just shared, I want to move into books. The book market is mature. People expect to pay for books. Rightfully so. It's intellectual content. It's of value. I value it. I'm going to charge for books. I want to put more effort into books versus the free space of audio drama. But I don't want to leave audio drama. I enjoy it. I enjoy those fans that I have. I enjoy the patrons I love the patrons who support me month after month from those shows. And I want to continue that relationship with them. So I'm not going completely away. I have devised a way to keep myself in audio drama, but also focus more on novels. I've shared some of that with you, with the commitment to Diary of a Madman Season 3, with that secret project, and with Season 3 of Subject Found once and only once it's funded. And I'll do the same thing with Who Killed Julie's follow-on, and I'll do the same thing with Season 4 of Subject Found. But what I'm doing in a way to reward those people who want to help achieve those goals is I'm giving away the audio dramas and audio stories on my Patreon feed. I've done it forever, but that's where the focus is going now in the future. So it's essentially behind a paywall. If you want more of my content, then you're going to come over to the paywall, and I'm not going to be ridiculous. It'll be low entry-level patron stuff. But I already have You, which is a choose-your-own-adventure audio drama. I created a story, and at the end of each episode, I make the fans of that show on Patreon make a decision. A-B decision or an open-ended question that they get to create the answer to. And sometimes I choose one that really inspired me. Sometimes I aggregate them and take a general theme that they've presented, and I go write the next episode of that. And it's a lot of fun to have that kind of interaction with my patrons. They own a lot of that story. And in fact, one of them is now the main character in that story. So it's been really cool to do that with them. Very rewarding. And that will go on until that story is done. I don't know where that is right now. We can only really do it once a month. By the time they listen to it, give me feedback, and I have to go write it, edit it, record it, all that stuff. So once a month. That's not enough for me. And in 2019, and really in 2020, I've set a new goal for myself, writing goal. I want to get into my first love. Most of you know me as a horror and thriller writer, but my actual fiction love is epic medieval fantasy. I love huge books with huge worlds that are centered in somewhat of a medieval type world. That's the stuff I love. So, as I was writing 12 Deaths of Christmas, one of the stories in there, like you don't know because you went and bought it to help support me, right? One of the stories in there, it's not even my favorite story. Not even close. But the character is. She is the strongest character in that anthology. The story's called Dear Savior Born. And it's about a dystopic future with a king of America. And she, Thana, is an assassin. Her job is to kill that king. I loved her. I fell in love with her when I started writing her. And for years, I've been wanting to write an epic fantasy. And it wasn't until, that fantasy, like many of your stories probably, that fantasy was hanging around in the back of my head forever, even while I was doing all this horror stuff. It would never go away, and I didn't want it to go away. It wasn't until I wrote her that a couple things happened. One, I wanted to write epic fantasy. I've written a 300,000 word fantasy book and 180,000 words of its follow-on, and I don't know if those will ever see the light of day. That happened over 10 years ago. So I've wanted to get into it again for over 10 years. But Thana put that desire to get back into epic fantasy, along with my geekiness of loving rogue slash thief characters in role-playing games. Think of Dungeons and Dragons, think of World of Warcraft, stuff like that. I've always geeked out about rogues and thieves because I see them as much more complex than a barbarian who just bashes their way through things, or a warlock who conjures up some neat little thing that conveniently always saves the day. Rogues and thieves don't have that. Their powers are subtle. And that's always intrigued me. And I always thought one day I'm going to write a rogue thief story. Never made those connections until Thana came into my life through a horror story in a horror anthology. And she was it. She was the key to the puzzle that unlocked the vision. Thana was going to be the thief / rogue in an epic fantasy world that I wanted to jump into. So I'm outlining that world. I'm world building and outlining now. And who knows how long that's going to last. It's a huge thing to think about. Everything's being created. Societies, religions, magic systems, the world, story arcs, characters, as you do. And patrons are actually going to get a behind-the-scenes look at it next month in January. $5 patrons a month will, because I do a behind-the-scenes now with them. Once a month Q&A, ask me anything type stuff. And I'm actually going to walk them through what's happening with that to kind of give them an idea of the difference in character world and arc building between horror and thrillers and epic fantasy. But that outlining and world building will continue until it's done. So I anticipate the early portion of 2019. And the outlining of the first couple of novels in this, because it's going to be a huge series, the first couple of novels will happen maybe through the summer of 2019, and then I'll get into the writing maybe late summer, early fall. That's the plan right now. And I'm going to pump out as much as quickly as I can. But I thought this all ties back into what I left you off with when I was talking about valuing your creations. I can't ask my patrons in good faith, I cannot ask them to continue to support me month after month, even though I know the vast majority of them would, without something. Now, yeah, every month they're going to get some kind of exclusive story. Each and every month I'm going to give them a new short story, but I want to give them something bigger. I love, interacting with them on that level. So, Crown of Thieves, which is the series title for the novels, will also be an audio drama. I have a couple ideas of how it's going to work from book world to audio drama world, and I'm not going to divulge those now because they're still, germinating, sprouting roots and taking hold so they can grow. As more comes available, I'll talk about it. But it will be another exclusive audio drama. I will put it out on my feeds for Who Killed Julie, Diary of a Madman, and Subject Found, and this feed. I will put a first full episode out there for everybody to see what's happening. But the rest of that series is going to stay as a patron-only series. That's right. A full audio drama for only patrons, whether that's 2 people that are old high school friends that want to support me, or if it grows to 200, 2,000, I don't know. But that's where it's going to stay. And I share this with you again because I value you, the creator. I value you so much that I'm going to say things that other people won't say in public because it's important. Joanna Penn, love her to death, often talks about digital content trending towards zero, meaning the value of digital content is trending towards a free marketplace. That's wonderful in a perfect world, but this ain't a perfect world. You still have to pay your bills. You still have to feed your family. You still need to take a vacation once in a damn while to unwind and reward yourself. The more we contribute to that downward trending line, the quicker we get there. And I'm okay with valuing my stuff enough to say, no, I'm putting it behind a paywall. And if ultimately that means one day I have 0 patrons, then I have 0 patrons who are listening to it, and then I stop doing it. Hear what I'm saying. Hear how I'm saying it. Publishing with attitude. I'm not being flippant. I'm not being apathetic. I'm not being belligerent. I just value myself, my creative energy, my time enough to say, this is worth this much. For example, when Crown of Thieves is produced and becomes an audio drama for my patrons, every patron level will have access to it. Even the $1 a month people. $1 a month. That's $12 a year. That is 2 trips to Starbucks. 1 if you're getting something to eat. I value me enough to say, yeah, a year worth of entertainment from me equates at least a single Starbucks visit. Do you value your content that much? And if you do, what strategies are you thinking about in this current marketplace? How are you positioning yourself? What are you willing to assume, put on your shoulders, carry on your own back, and what are you not? Are you forcing yourself into a this or that false dichotomy? You have to be here and do all this stuff, or you disappear. I wouldn't want that for any of you. So in this special end of year, behind the scenes episode, I've not only reviewed what I did, but why I did it like I did and what I plan on doing going forward. And I do that, share that with you, because honest truth, the horrible writing community is a beautiful community. If you haven't joined us on Facebook, you're really missing out. You don't have to go to anything else on Facebook. You really don't. Join us over there, join our conversation, and join our sharing. It's incredibly supportive. And I absolutely love it. So join us. Go search, type in the search bar on your Facebook page or app, and Horrible Writing Writer Support Group. You'll find us, and we will let you in because we're really cool people. As far as plans for this show for the next year, I was going to adjust the interviews, but I'm not going to go with that. I might do that in the future. For the next year of this show, season 3 through the 2019 season, I'm going to keep doing interviews only with authors who are published and only those authors who are willing to share the personal side of their stuff. So I'm not going to promise you every other episode of author interviews. It's exhausting to try to find people, and it scares some authors. I'll be completely honest with you. Through their own humility or apprehension, it's difficult to find them. It takes a lot more work to ask them to think about something they could talk about openly, like we have been for this past year, than it is to invite somebody on to talk about their recent book in the craft of writing. Okay, there's a reason why everybody does that. And this show is the only one I found that kind of gets into the cognitive, emotional, mental health side of writing. And I'm okay with that. So I'm going to do it every single time I find a writer who's willing to come on. So if you're one of them and you have not been on this show yet, please consider that. Give me a topic that you're willing to talk about. We'll have a private email conversation, and then we'll get on the mic together and we'll talk about that thing. But I still plan on doing weekly episodes. I might just shift to the ever-growing list of topics that I want to cover with you. I have a list underneath my computer monitor right in front of me right now that is topics for the show. And I thought I did that because I was like, I'll record for those in-between author interviews, and we'll just, come up with ideas. And I've got a million things I could talk about. What I have found was I have a million things to talk about and a million more I can't even get time to record. And I'm not going to start slamming you with multiple episodes a week. So the list will carry me through 2019, even if I don't have a single episode author interview. But I do. So I'm not worried about it. We've got some good early year stuff coming up. I've got audio dramatists from Rise of the King of Silas and from In Her Burning. I've got an author who wants to talk about PTSD. I've got Chris Banks coming over from Pro Writing Aid to talk about work-life balance. Andy Peliquin, who's a fantasy author who I love, is coming on to talk about hardcore writing. So I already have a number of episodes, interviews recorded, and I have an email box full of other authors I owe an email to. So don't worry, if you like those author interviews, you're going to get them, for at least for a little while, and then we'll go from there. My hope for you, as we prepare to say bye for a short holiday break, is that you keep creating, that this show empowers you to believe that you have a place here, because you do. I hope my candid conversations with you gives you the belief, if you don't already have it, and reinforces that belief, or gives you a feeling of empowerment that you have space to take, and in 2019, you're going to take it. You know why? Because you are epic. Have a wonderful, love-filled, fulfilling holiday season. Be safe over the new year, and I will see you in 2019.
This has been Horrible Writing, and hopefully after this episode, you suck less than you did at the beginning. I am Paul Sadin, your host extraordinaire. You can find me over on the Twitterverse @WritingHorrible and over at paulsadin.com/horrible-writing. Until next time, suck less.